Hello and welcome to this episode of the Business Spotlight. Today we are joined by Nikki from Holisticare. Hi, Nikki.
Hi,
Thank you very much for joining us today.
thanks for having me. I'm really looking forward to it.
Absolute pleasure. So, for those of you joining us for the first time, the Business Spotlight is a place for you to find out a bit more about business, or more specifically, a bit more about Nikki's business today. But if you're thinking of getting into business yourself, or even if you're already on that entrepreneurship journey, you're in the right place. So, Nikki, if you could just kick things off for us, please, by letting the audience know who you are, what you do, and how long you've been doing it for.
Okay, so I qualified as a physiotherapist in 1993, so 32 years ago. Worked for the NHS, worked in Australia, and then 19 years ago, I set up in private practice, and that's when Holisticare was born. And I started off thinking I don't really know what I'm going to do, but I need to use my brain again after my children started school and playgroup, and came across a course that sounded interesting to update my skills in this thing I'd never heard of before called myofascial release, and went along, and literally that introductory weekend changed my life. And I'm really lucky that the career I chose age 13 has allowed me to travel. I've written 2 books, I've worked around my children, I've done all sorts of amazing things. So yeah, thank you to my 13-year-old self.
Wow, that's amazing. And I can't wait to dig into that. I mean, from the age of 13, you knew what you wanted to do. I mean, that's just quite unusual and brilliant at the same time. So that's fantastic. So I'm intrigued to find out more, and I'm sure this question is going to bring this out. But what is it? So obviously, it's something different that you do to anybody else out there. So what
Yeah.
exactly is it that you do that makes the difference?
Okay, so we specialize in a really gentle hands-on treatment called myofascial release, or very specifically John Barnes myofascial release. And I say that because some forms of MFR, myofascial release, are more like a deep tissue stretch, and they can be quite painful and invasive. John Barnes is the American physiotherapist who developed the technique over 50 years ago now, and he's now 87. He's still teaching.
Wow.
And it's completely based in science. But even since I started 19 years ago, the understanding of how it works and what's happening as we're working has just accelerated. It's a massive field of research. And I love that what we're doing hasn't changed, but everything that's coming out is underpinning the reason for it. And it's different because it's, to my knowledge, it's one of the only treatments where you're working with the patient. So most types of therapy, you're doing things to people.
Yeah.
With this, we are working on the stuff that holds your cells together. So every single cell in your body is connected to every other cell via a continuous web of fibers. And so everything that happens to you within your in your life, and that's emotional stuff as well as physical, is potentially recorded within that system. And so as we go through life and we have different traumas and life, we very effectively tie ourselves in knots. And most people's problems, even if they're old surgeries and injuries that are still niggling, or a lot of people get random inflammation for no apparent reason that are resistant to treatment. The reason for that is if you only treat your shoulder, you're forgetting that that's connected to the rest of your body.
Yeah.
So what's different about what we're doing is we're looking at all of you, and we're looking at why. We're looking at where are the restrictions that are causing the irritation, that are causing the inflammation. So yes, we want to help your pain, but we also want to treat the why. And in my experience, that's what's different about what we do.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. I mean, I'm loving that as well, the way that you sort of described that so eloquently. Thank you. So you've said 19 years, and I mean, obviously you've mentioned 32 years as well, but if we go back to the beginning of the business that you've launched, and the work that you're doing, probably sort of a little bit too much to go into great detail, but just a few milestones along the way. Just sort of pan it out from when you originally sort of launched the company, why you did it, and some of the milestones along the way, please, Nikki.
Okay, so I started off in my spare room at home 2 mornings a week because that's where my daughter was at playgroup.
Yeah.
The first year I did no advertising or marketing at all because I live in a little village, and everybody who was in pain came to see me. So that was great. And then over the years, as my children got older, did more hours, I was able to increase. And after a few years, I had to make a decision. Okay, I'm either going to stay on my own at home and turn people away, or get premises, employ people, and grow. And that's where I went down. From there, I asked the local farmer in the pub, would he like to build me a treatment centre on his farm, which is just outside the village? And he said yes, because I was looking for premises that had free parking, had wheelchair access, rooms of a certain size, and they just didn't exist. Certainly not in this area. And so we was very lucky we had the treatment centre purpose built for us, which has all of those things. So that was about 13 years ago, I think, 13, 14 years ago. And so since then, I've been employing people, different therapists have come and gone, but the core offering of what we do is all my therapists specialise in the myofascial release. And so now we are, to my knowledge, we are unique in Europe in that there's a team of us, all specialists, all working together, because I employ my therapists. They're not just renting a room. We are a true team. And what we offer, and in the purpose-built premises, we have people travelled from all over the UK, from Europe. They come for that expertise.
Wow, that is so cool to have a purpose-built place. And it's just outside where your village is as well, so it's right on the outskirts.
4-minute commute, yeah.
4 minutes, wow, that sounds...
Yeah, it's on a working farm, so yeah, it's great.
That's so brilliant. Okay, so I mean, thank you for that. I mean, that's such a great share for us and for the audience to sort of understand, the humble beginnings from, being in the bedroom to where you are now in this purpose built facility. So, I mean, looking forward then, Nikki, what would you say, what does the future hold? And what would you say would be maybe some of the challenges that you might face going forward?
I think our biggest challenge are the things that I can't do anything about. So I'm one that if there's an issue, I want to do something about it. I don't sit on it. I want to get there. Things like the cost of living crisis, you literally can't change it. So I think going forward, we haven't seen the end of that. And, unfortunately, we are seen as a luxury, even though people more and more are prioritizing their health. People feel guilty about spending money on themselves when obviously there's other priorities and family and life. So that is a big challenge for us. Going forward, I'd like to really spread the word of mouth. So more and more people are hearing about myofascial release, which is great because there's not that education aspect. But so many people have given up. They've tried everything. They've been told, no, that's it, you've got to live with it, or take these pills, or and they just give up hope. And actually, we're not going to fix everybody, it doesn't work like that, but there's a lot of people that actually we could help to manage their condition so that they can enjoy life again. And I would love to just get the word out, and even if they don't come to us, that they find somebody and they keep looking and they don't give up hope, because it's just so sad. There are people whose lives are really ruined by a condition that is potentially changeable.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful what you've said there. And, hopefully this podcast will go some way towards getting it out there and sort of shouting it from the rooftops. But yeah, no, it's great work that you're doing. And I think that's fantastic. And another great share, Nikki. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, I mean, as the business owner and someone that's been in business for as many years as you have, what would you say, and it's probably difficult, I know, to maybe narrow it down to one or two, but what would you say has been some of the biggest lessons that you've learned from being in business?
To be flexible. So I think, I mean, I've worked with business coaches all the way along. It's something that it's been invaluable to me. And the one thing I've learned is know where you're going and why you're doing it. But you can't be narrow in that, because otherwise you hit the block, and where do you go? So looking at different ways of getting around issues, or the world has changed. The way that I marketed and things that worked pre COVID, and now completely different. And if you don't go with that, if you don't change with it, then you're not here anymore. So yes, have a clear insight of where you're going and why, but don't be too narrow, and be willing to change, I think.
Yeah, I think that's really valuable. And I think, you know, you mentioned the word flexible there a few times. And also, you know, you've got to have a plan. You've got to have a plan to give clarity so you can take action on that plan. But being flexible towards the changes that will invariably and inevitably will happen. I think that's a really great piece of advice. I know. Thanks for that. Okay, so what I'd like to do is, I mean, and humour me if you will, if we were able to go back in time and we was able to go back in time and we're going to go and see an 18-year-old Nikki, okay? And you get to give yourself one piece of advice, one golden nugget. What would it be?
Trust your intuition. Listen to that voice that makes you maybe question things. Yeah, I think, and maybe just because I'm quite spontaneous, I have a bright idea and I go for it, which is why running my own business is great for me. But sometimes if I just paused a minute and listened to that voice and maybe done a bit more research, then things might have been a bit easier.
Yeah, I think that's a great piece of advice, right? Because I mean, the thing is that gut instinct that we have, that sort of like intuition, if you will. It's one of those ones when you sort of say to yourself, do I listen to it or do I not?
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that's great. Thank you for that. I mean, Nikki, you clearly, you know, you've succeeded and done some amazing things, and you're very passionate about what you do. But what I always like to really find out is peel back the layers and find out what it is that makes you tick. What is it that really inspires you, that puts that fire in your belly every day, every week to do what you do?
And this is going to sound really corny, but the fact that we do change people's lives on a daily basis. And, you know, as I said, it's not the quick fix, it's the people with the chronic conditions that are never going to be cured, but we enable them to live life. And the feedback we get, and the feedback we get from their families as well, even if you're having a tough day, somebody will walk in at the end of the day, and I had it today, and you know, he said he was able to get on the floor and play with his grandchildren for the first time in 3 years, which doesn't sound a lot, but for him that was massive. um and yeah, it is those things, it's those little nuggets that just make it worthwhile. Yeah, and while I can make a difference, and then I'll carry on.
Wow, I'm loving that. I think that's brilliant. And, you know, rightly so too. I mean, I know from personal experience that, you know, just putting my back out once and I went to see someone and they fixed it and I'd suffered it for quite some time. And when they said, how's that? And I said, I mean, you know, they spoke to me about a week afterwards and they said, how's it all going? And I said, I can put my own socks on again.
Yeah.
And it's simple as that, but life changing, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
No,
And
that's
it's mental
fantastic.
health as well as physical, because if you're in pain, then you stop doing things. You know, if you can't play golf, then you're not in that social circle anymore, and you're not getting. It's the whole knock-on effect. So it's not just the area of the pain.
Yeah. Yeah, like you say, it's not just the physical side of it, is it?
No.
No. Okay, so Nikki, I mean, there's going to be a lot more that people are going to want to find out, and they're going to want to find out more about you and the business 100%. So, what's the best way for people to get in touch or to find out more?
I'd say the website has got all the information, which is holisticare.co.uk, and that's got very importantly a very clear contact number at the top, because I hate websites which haven't got that. And it's got lots of information, but we're always happy to have a chat. Anybody who's interested in coming, if you're a new patient, everybody starts with a free call with me first. So, and there's no obligation for that. So if you're not sure, book a call. You can do it online or phone us, and then we have a chat. We can explain everything. I can make sure that we're right for you, and then we can look at sort of the best way forward for you.
Wow, that's fantastic. That's brilliant. And Nikki, it's been such a pleasure to have you on today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. Well, for everybody listening or our viewers, that's it. That's a wrap. That's the business spotlight. We'll see you all again very soon. Take care.